The pop-up camper has been through a few different design phases. First, I had it on the roof of a car. It was a little bit more difficult to open than I had anticipated, so I decided to put it on a trailer. I expanded the bottom, which accommodated more headroom. After that, I put it on the bed of a full-size truck, and then I decided to put it in storage for a while, using it as a big toolbox. I made the base of the pop-up camper a while back, and I made these pop-in panels. The top is flat now. I'll be putting a hatch right here for ventilation. I wanted something I could walk around on, and the curved top was lightweight and it wouldn't support walking. And there's the simple approach I used to start framing in the vent hatch. I've got 1x6 that will support the hinges where they attach, and little strips of 1x1, and that will be framed out. So I've taken the top of the camper off and flipped it upside down and added 1x2 to the front and to the sides. And that is what I'll secure the walls to. And then I've got the two landscape fabrics that I'm experimenting with. This black one is more stretchy. It's thin, and it's got little perforated holes in it. And then this one is not stretchy, and it has more of a random weave. All ready to start rolling out primer on the landscape fabric, and I'll be leaving a little bit of fabric for the angle. A few suggestions I would say is use a generous amount of primer. Always work in one direction. I went that way. It pushes the cloth smoothly out away, and I didn't go back over the initial starting point because it'll peel the little fibers up if you go back over it. So it's a one shot, one direction kind of a deal. Final step in finishing the lid is to fold over the edges. I'll be using a thicker adhesive and an extra piece of wood to hold it into position. I figure the thicker adhesive will fill in any potential gaps that form, because what happens is that you get little bubbles, and the thicker adhesive I think will be better for that. Doubling up support where the hinges will be. The hatch looks good. I'm about to put the hinges on today. Super simple, one nut and bolt on each side, and one piece connects the two on the top. I want the door to open and lay down, so I need 180 degrees, so I had to build some kind of lifting blocks, if you will, to lift the hinges up the same thickness of the hatch. Super important if you're doing hinges like this, you want to put a shim across there. I had one, but it wasn't big enough, so I had to plane that down. Now it clears. This might be my new favorite way of making small doors. Thin plywood with lath around the edges. It gives it a little bit of strength, but it's still really light. I want the two flaps on the side to fold to the center. So what I've done is I made that piece thicker than that one so that the flap on the left side will lay underneath the flap on the right side. So it's got some kind of little water guards in the side. Everything is painted. This is one of those things that's so satisfying. Now moving on to the side panels, I'm using a medium thickness poly tarp, Reflectix, and Gorilla Tape. I tape the Reflectix to the inside walls in strips so it adds a little bit of rigidity. I use a 1x2 to fold over the tape neatly, which makes a nice edge. I added the tarp and Reflectix. That way I have both wood and insulation. It should really keep the sun heat off of this rear door. For some of the jobs I do, I have to go pretty far for about half the year. And if it's about a 2 or 3 day drive, it's kind of nice to be able to stop and lay down and get a rest and anywhere. So let's get back to the build. And I'll attach the panel on both sides. Same as the other side, I pre-applied the tape, and hopefully it doesn't stick to anything I don't want it to stick to. Left myself a good amount of space between the lip that I'm attaching the panel to and the side on the inside, so I have plenty of room to work. I think I have about 3 inches there, which makes this a lot easier. I could have taken the lid off and flipped it upside down, but I didn't want to use up all that time. And it's actually getting heavy with all the paint and everything on it. And there it is. Time to drop the lid back down. These will fold up on the inside and test it out. I want to make sure I don't squish any of the panels. Low budget screen attachment using some Gorilla Tape folded around the edges of the screen. I'll be attaching everything with an electric staple gun. I leveled all the contact points off with 2 strips. I went ahead and taped over the staples one more time because those no-seams get pretty wicked. The screen is tight. All right, let's reinstall the back door. I ordered some Velcro from the internet, 28 feet for $10, and I've started applying it to the sides. I've got one half of the Velcro, and then what I did was I just stuck the other half of the Velcro, and then I'll peel the sticky part, the adhesive, and then I'll fold the panel back down and it should fall into place. I've also added a few folds of duct tape where any seams could leak. And I've added a few more flaps to keep the rain out. The main reasons for the camper being the shape and design it is, the main thing is really to have sitting headroom. So the only real way to get this sitting headroom is to make the camper taller than the racks. And that's the reason it folds, because I don't want to have anything obstructing the wind flow over the top of the truck. I added a little table. The table's pretty sweet. It's got a little bracket. Probably for dinner. And then of course I've got my pirate lantern ×2. That one's electric. It's solar powered, so it charges all day. And then I've got the candle. For ventilation, I'm using a laptop cooling fan. It draws very little power. It runs off of a USB cord that I run to a Ryobi battery. It just has a on-off for the battery and then runs the USB cord to the ventilation fan. If it's raining really hard or windy, I could close that up, but it'll be nice when it's hot. Easily reach anything over there and make a meal while sheltered. And then the bug screen, of course, I've got that opened up just because it looks cool. When it's time to close up, everything fits inside.